Yunnan government halts thousands of projects, experts warn of massive bankruptcies among bosses. First-time move, creditors target state-owned shareholders amid China real estate crisis. Guizhou's sky-high mountain fire completely extinguished overnight, mocked as blown out with mouths. Dam project threatens 1,000-year-old monastery, hundreds of Tibetans arrested for petitioning in Sichuan. Chinese savings surge by 58.24 trillion in 4 years, experts analyze the CCP's abnormal economy. It's all covered in today's China Truths. Yunnan government halts thousands of projects, experts warn of massive bankruptcies among bosses. The local government debt crisis in China continues to be a focal point of concern. A revealing 34-page list from Yunnan province, showcasing 1,153 halted or delayed government projects worth about 290.468 billion yuan, $40.4 billion USD, hit the internet on February 22. The shocking part? Only 2.5 billion yuan, $347.4 million USD, is left for debt repayment, leaving the Yunnan government in a tight spot with billions invested but little to show for it. Weibo influencer Skiing River Fish also chimed in, noting that while it's difficult to verify the authenticity of this list, the specificity of names and figures for each city and project makes it incredibly challenging to fabricate. He explained that previously, local governments freely spent money, drawing primarily from land sales, loans, and government grants. Now, these sources have all but vanished, particularly the proceeds from land sales, which have seen a dramatic decline. The pause or slowdown of these extensive investment projects means many business owners will face financial losses, potentially severe, because government projects typically require developers to front a considerable amount of money. Expenses have been incurred even before any work begins. The Laoman channel, known for its commentary on China's economic challenges, pointed out that with these projects being stopped partway and their scant funds withdrawn, the work that has been completed is effectively left in limbo, unable to be settled. It is expected that numerous construction firms and contractors will go bankrupt. The cessation of more than 1,000 investment projects by the Yunnan government has ignited vigorous online debate. This indicates that these projects were essentially hollow promises from the outset, just figures with numerous zeros on paper, depending heavily on sequential funding by the second party, with the government only contributing minimal bridging funds to facilitate the project's execution. Even if they were to be completed as planned, the government lacks the funds. The revelation has merely come sooner than expected. Many of these projects were incorporated into various local debt initiatives, backed either implicitly or explicitly by local financial assurances at all levels, with most of the funding already dispersed. With these projects now abandoned, the issuers and banks that purchased the debt find themselves in a dire situation. With a significant portion of the Chinese economy driven by investment, persisting in this manner will swiftly trigger an economic collapse. The temporary halt of any project results in an inability to pull funds. This reckless crash landing of local finances is bound to have grave repercussions. A multitude of construction companies and contractors will go bankrupt, leaving countless migrant workers to resort to malicious wage claims. Some said that this issue is not unique to Yunnan province, it's likely a widespread problem across all financial structures. As previously reported, in late January this year, the CCP State Council released the method for strengthening the management of government investment projects in key provinces, trial, policy document. It mandates that 12 provinces and cities identified as having high-risk debt slow down or cease infrastructure projects, including those related to transportation, municipal services, industrial parks, public buildings, and slum rehabilitation. The list encompasses Tianjin, Inner Mongolia, Liaoning, Jilin, Heilongjiang, Guangxi, Chongqing, Guizhou, Yunnan, Gansu, Qinghai, and Ningxia, all recognized for their significant debt levels. First-time move, creditors target state-owned shareholders amid China real estate crisis. In a fresh twist to China's ongoing real estate saga, China South City, a state-owned company, missed payments on its dollar bonds. Insiders have spilled that international creditors are prepping for a legal showdown against the company's top state shareholder, the Shenzhen Special Economic Zone Construction and Development Group, overseen by Shenzhen's asset watchdog. This legal threat is a first of its kind since the 2021 crisis, putting a state firm squarely in the legal crosshairs for debt recovery. Reuters dropped the bomb on February 23, revealing from bondholders that China South City hadn't coughed up $11.25 million due on February 9, sparking talks of default. Creditors, rallying a legal team, are eyeing a Hong Kong court case against the Shenzhen Group, which owns a 29% slice of China South City. The drama heightened on February 9, New Year's Eve, with China South City hinting at a looming default on payments due that day, and on February 12, risking defaults on future notes. By February 19, the plot thickened as the major shareholder confirmed the default, which led to accusations against China South City of misleading public disclosures and insider info suppression, prompting calls for regulatory scrutiny. Creditors' open letter accuses China South City of dodging over $11 million in payments, not out of financial distress but deliberate evasion. Despite a payment hiccup announced last December, signaling a default risk, China South City finds itself juggling 5 active dollar bonds worth $1.152 billion, all due between April and December 2024. End 2021 records unveiled the Shenzhen Group as China South City's new lead and largest shareholder, diluting founder Xing Songxing's stake and making way for strategic state investment. This transformation earmarked China South City's shift from private to public under the state's wing, underscoring the intricate dance between corporate maneuvering and state involvement in China's teetering real estate market. Guizhou's sky-high mountain fire completely extinguished overnight, mocked as blown out with mouths. The wildfire crisis in Guizhou spanned half the province, and despite authorities' efforts to keep it under wraps, it burst into public consciousness on February 21. The very next day, officials claimed it was completely extinguished, reporting 2 fatalities. Following the government's victory announcement, the once prevalent wildfire footage on mainland China's social media vanished, suddenly replaced with celebratory and firefighter-praising content. These videos, however, were criticized for being obviously staged and inconsistent. Scenes showed firefighters too tired to stay awake while eating, yet suspiciously clean. Other clips featured them aimlessly spraying water on already cold ashes. Skepticism abounds among Chinese netizens, both local and from afar, over the official stance that the province's wildfires were all completely extinguished. Some from outside Guizhou were met with straightforward responses from locals confirming, "No, the fire is not out." Remarks continued into the evening of the 23rd, with some claiming, "We've just won the battle against the wildfire." Questions arise about how, given the extensive mountainous terrain and persistent online footage of the fires through February 22, the authorities managed an overnight total extinguishment. Was it indeed, as mocked, extinguished by blowing on it? Videos from the ground paint a grim picture. Dry conditions and winds fanned the flames beyond control, leaving rescuers to watch helplessly as the blaze devoured forests and homes. Their only prevention tactic was to carve out fire breaks, hoping to halt the fire's advance. In addition to Guizhou, wildfires continued to ravage areas in Guangxi, Yunnan, and Sichuan, particularly with wildfires erupting across bays in Hechi and Guangxi and quickly spreading on February 20. But Guizhou's approach to propaganda is being replicated in these regions as well. Official reports on Guangxi's fires adhere to a good news-only policy, focusing on areas where fires have been extinguished and virtually ignoring the broader scope of uncontrolled blazes. Online sentiment echoed the official narrative, with a wave of videos celebrating Guangxi's firefighting success. Yet, for those areas where wildfires continued to spread, information became scarce. On Chinese New Year's Eve, Hubei faced a massive traffic gridlock due to severe blizzard and freezing rain, stretching hundreds of kilometers. Authorities then verbally declared the entire province's highways completely cleared. By February 9, New Year's Eve, with Hubei highways clogged for a solid week, officials abruptly announced all provincial highways are cleared. Videos capturing the extensive traffic jams almost entirely vanished from the internet, overtaken by updates of smooth-flowing highways. Yet, a few videos that managed to escape suppression showed that jams persisted in parts, leaving some travelers to spend New Year's Eve stranded. In the wake of directives from the CCP to sing praises of a bright economic future, commentators online have criticized the CCP's descent into a vicious cycle of governance through propaganda. CCP prioritizes foreign lives over its own citizens. Radio Free Asia reports that Mr. Wang, a Junyi resident, Guizhou province, lambasted the state media in an interview on the 23rd for their relentless coverage of international disasters while ignoring domestic calamities. He stated, "The practice of only reporting positive news is characteristic of the propaganda machines in communist countries." When wildfires broke out in the United States and Australia, the Chinese media, under the control of the propaganda department, zealously covered these events. Yet, they show selective apathy towards the wildfires in Guizhou, China. Mr. Yuan, an Sichuan scholar, remarked, "In a dictatorship marred by abnormalities, it's typical to highlight only the positive news." The state-run CCTV news focuses on death and disaster stories from overseas, a commonplace strategy in an authoritarian regime. Dissident Mr. Ji Feng, currently in Tongzi County, Guizhou, shared with Radio Free Asia that on 22nd morning, 2 domestic security officers visited his home, demanding he remove his comments about the Guizhou wildfires. "They showed up at my doorstep, insisting I delete my posts about the wildfires, advising against posting anything related to the local incident. This was due to pressure from higher-up police officers, forcing me to comply. In fact, I had learned about the wildfire 5 or 6 days earlier, right when it started, because the domestic security had informed me that their superiors had assigned them wildfire prevention tasks." In Guizhou, it's customary to honor deceased relatives at the start of the Lunar New Year by lighting incense and candles. To me, this feels like a scenario of apocalyptic disorder. On platforms like Douyin and WeChat, numerous netizens are showcasing the devastating wildfires in Guizhou, revealing collapsed farmers' homes and scores of pigs perishing in the flames. However, many bloggers are calling out the state media for their indifferent response to the disaster. With each natural disaster, it becomes evident that the CCP is indifferent to the populace's survival, with calamities resulting from human fault proving more dreadful than those from natural causes. Despite the CCP's self-portrayal as the people's great savior, it acts more as a great calamity to the Chinese nation. Rejecting and disintegrating the CCP is the only way for the Chinese people to escape such disasters. Dam project threatens 1,000-year-old monastery, hundreds of Tibetans arrested for petitioning in Sichuan. Tibetans in Sichuan have been protesting continuously against the construction of a hydroelectric station by authorities, which is set to destroy 6 temples and displace 2 villages comprising 2,000 residents. Reports suggest that the most concentrated protest occurred on February 14, with over 300 Tibetans gathering outside the Dege County Government Building, Gars Tibetan Autonomous Prefecture, Sichuan. Local Tibetan sources cited in reports said that police employed water cannons, pepper spray, and stun guns to suppress the protesting crowds, resulting in injuries and hospitalizations. More than 100 Tibetan monks and other demonstrators have been arrested for their participation in the protests. Following the demonstrations on February 14, authorities implemented road closures in Wangbuding Township, Dege County, and imposed strict restrictions on villages and temples, including digital communications. However, on February 21, videos emerged showing monks kneeling before local Communist Party officials during an inspection of a temple marked for demolition, pleading for the cessation of dam construction. However, according to reports from Voice of Tibet, their requests were denied. On the 23rd, Tibetan writer and journalist Tsering Chi, based in the United States, shared a nighttime video on the X platform. The video depicted numerous Tibetans kneeling and weeping, appealing to stop the construction of the hydroelectric station, with police cars stationed nearby. Tsering Chu revealed that officials promised to discuss with the caretaker of Wangdui Temple and village representatives, but it was a setup. They were arrested upon arrival. With the internet cut off, the monastery and villagers were unaware of their arrest. Police blocked roads and restricted movement between villages. Despite this, the monks offered food and water, thinking the police were following orders without conflict. However, the police started arresting people the next morning. Tibetan writer Wozer shared videos and photos on the X platform, unveiling the history and splendor of the 1,000-year-old monastery, Wangdui Temple. With its millennia-long history, the temple survived the Cultural Revolution and preserved ancient structures like the main hall, scripture hall, and guardian hall, along with valuable ancient murals. A collection of murals dating back to the 14th to 15th centuries represents some of the most significant Tibetan Buddhist murals found locally to date, with considerable importance for the study of Tibetan painting art. However, now, due to the construction of the hydroelectric station, the monastery and its murals are at risk of being submerged. Wozer further highlighted concerns voiced by environmentalists years ago regarding the planned construction of a series of hydropower stations in the Guizhou River basin, forming part of a massive encroachment into the Qinghai-Tibet Plateau, posing an imminent threat. This region stands out as the most geologically active and densely populated area for geological disasters in China, and even globally. Since 2000, construction of the world's largest and most densely situated Guizhou River hydropower group has been underway along this river. Recent years have witnessed multiple incidents like landslides and earthquakes in proximity to reservoirs and power stations along the Guizhou River. Moreover, Wozer condemned the ongoing degradation of natural landscapes and resources, as industrialization exacts a toll on nature. From the man-made extinction of species like the Yangtze River sturgeon and finless porpoise to the potential risk of future catastrophic earthquakes stemming from projects like the Three Gorges Dam, and the adverse impacts of initiatives like the South-to-North Water Diversion Project on natural resource equilibrium, this nation's persistence in regressive policies will undoubtedly incur the condemnation of countless future generations. Chinese savings surge by 58.24 trillion in 4 years, experts analyze the CCP's abnormal economy. Since the COVID-19 pandemic outbreak, China's economy has been on a downward spiral, with unemployment soaring and numerous families resorting to debt to make ends meet. Contrarily, the CCP boasts of a significant rise in household new savings amounts. In detail, according to the CCP's official figures, Chinese household savings have surged by 58.24 trillion yuan, approximately $8.1 trillion in the past 4 years, with 82% in fixed deposits. This announcement has ignited widespread debate and quickly became a trending topic on mainland social media. Liang Xiaohua, a former Beijing attorney and ex-chief compliance officer at China Asset Management Company, has voiced skepticism about these figures, labeling them as disconnected from China's real economic conditions and therefore not trustworthy. He elaborated that in recent years, we've witnessed a stark rise in unemployment, the shuttering of numerous businesses across sectors like real estate, foreign trade, and tech platforms, leading to mass layoffs without any corresponding increase in workers' earnings. Amid the pandemic, countless individuals were left jobless, depleting their savings, a scenario that logically should result in dwindling savings. Yet, the CCP is keen on painting a rosy picture of the economy, resorting to fabricating data as the stock market fails to rebound. Earlier, the CCP's central bank claimed a significant increase in Chinese household savings in 2023 by 16.67 trillion yuan, approximately $2.3 trillion, following a 17.84 trillion yuan, about $2.5 trillion rise in 2022, accumulating to a decade's worth of savings from 2009 to 2019. Wu Jiaolong, a seasoned political and economic analyst, suggested, the truth probably lies somewhere in the middle. People might be saving more due to job security and income uncertainties, and the initial funds set aside for home purchases are now being saved, given the bleak outlook of the real estate market. Additionally, the unemployment crisis has forced many to rely on their previous savings, with a significant number choosing to lie flat. Columnist and China issues expert Wang He pointed out that this data signals an alarmingly growing wealth gap within the country. Assuming the data is accurate, it illustrates the dramatic expansion of the wealth gap during the pandemic years, with a concentration of wealth among a tiny elite while the middle class suffers significant blows, leading to its rapid erosion. Thus, the reported increase in household savings doesn't necessarily mean more money for the average citizen. The National Bureau of Statistics of the CCP had earlier reported that in 2023, per capita consumer spending in China reached 26,796 yuan, about $3,724, surpassing the average wage income of 22,053 yuan, about $3,065. This suggests that many are relying on alternative income sources or their bank savings to afford their living expenses. Wang He further explained that with such a scenario where resident savings are reported to increase, it reflects that the majority are merely fodder for the elite few who are amassing wealth. The CCP's economic model is inherently exploitative and oppressive. Without systemic change, the notion of enhancing domestic demand and promoting internal circulation remains a farce. Let us know your thoughts on today's topic by leaving a comment below. If you found this video helpful, please share it with a friend. It inspires us to continue creating more quality and reliable content. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more interesting insights from China Truths. Thanks for tuning in.